Hey everyone, today we are doing another video on real life discussing the two trips I did over the last 4 days. The trip to York that I did on the 22nd and 23rd of July 2025 and the trip up to Blackpool on the 24th and 25th. So yeah, leaving Maidenhead, we'll get straight into it. Leaving Maidenhead Station on the 22nd, the railway action started almost immediately with this with three old British Rail diesels heading past. A class 52 on the front with a nameplate which I can't read. I was in the moment wasn't able to read it. Then we have a class 46 and a class 42. So there is a heritage railway centre on the Great Western Main Line nearish to Paddington. I'm not sure what it's called, but yeah, I think those were from there. Pretty cool. So yeah, then we headed into London, as far as Farringdon on the Elizabeth line, where we hopped on a class 700. So I think this is where it transfers from third rail to overhead. So third rail to the south, overhead power to the north. So I rode on the class 700s for one stop. Yeah, one stop from Farringdon to St Pancras. And I got to try out the so-called ironboard seats. And they are actually not as bad as I thought they would be. But yeah, finally nice to see and ride a class 700 in real life. Now the photo's a bit blurry, but my phone's not exactly the best. I was having to take all these pictures on my phone. So, yeah. After St Pancras, we walked over to King's Cross, where we caught a Grand Central Class 180 service that was heading up to Sunderland. So I think this one was named James Herriot, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the fictional veterinarian. You'll put those who know. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Riding on a 180, since they're so rare in real life, only like 10 I think remain in service, and like 14 were ever built. So yeah, it was very special to ride on a class 180. So it was actually quite quick, since the first service stop was actually York. So just 2 hours non-stop all the way up to York. Yeah, King's Cross is also a very nice station, very airy. It's just... And this is a complaint I've got to make about Grand Central. Why in the heck are they still using diesels? Because they are running these diesels for hours under electric wires. They could at least have bimodes like the class 800, so they could have be under electric power. It's just such a waste. Anyway, that's enough ranting from me. So yeah, we got so from going from this picture to this picture, we actually skip over a day, because the first day we arrived is actually too late at York to go to the museum. We planned that for the next day, so we visited the Jorvik Viking Center, which is quite interesting. It's basically the history on the Viking town named Jorvik. So Jorvik eventually became anglicized to York eventually. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Then we bedded down for the night in a Premier Inn, and woke up the next morning and headed to the National Railway Museum, but not before doing some train spotting in York. But I don't have any pictures of that because I forgot to take any. But we did see quite a few trains, Transpennine, Class 802s and 185s, and then some northern trains like Class 155, 170s, 158s, things like that. Pretty cool. So yeah, this picture is from the 23rd. Now we start getting into the National Railway Museum. I took a ton of pictures. So yeah, this is Henry Oakley's cab. And then that's like one of the earlier steam engines. I think it's called Grasshopper. I'm not I think so anyway. Oh, you might notice if you have a look here. That's my brother Joliminator. Just go. Be sure to check out his channel. He does quite a bit of sim racing, but I managed to convince him to come along to the National Railway Museum. So yeah, he was actually quite interested in coming along. So that was good. Also, I brought my grandpa along, but I've blocked his face out for privacy reasons, just because like I don't know if he would want to appear in this video or not. So I just censored the face just to make sure you couldn't see him. Yeah, for privacy reasons. So yeah, then some old style railway carriages. I think these are like some of the oldest preserved railway carriages in the world. So yeah, like third class, you're sitting out in the open on hard wooden benches, and I can't imagine the ride would have been all too comfortable. Oof. And like even first class wouldn't have been too comfortable either. And then this here is like a steam engine which they use to pull steam engines up hills. Yeah, because the old like early 19th century steamers were exactly equipped for going up steep grades. So yeah, this stationary steam engine was designed to help them pull them up. Then we have some more old railway coaches off the Liverpool and Manchester Railway, I think it was, from like the 1830s. Pretty cool. I do like that yellow paint scheme, but I can't imagine these would be too comfortable either. Then we have a Class 84, number 001. Pretty cool. One of the prototype British Rail Electrics from the 60s. Pretty cool to see one of those in real life. Yeah. And then an old GWR box van. Some more old railway wagons. Yeah. And then you'll have to forgive me because I don't know a lot of these steamers, and there's not exactly sure what this one's from. Then a replica of George Stephens's rocket, which is, the replica itself is not exactly a spring chicken. It was built back in 1934, so it's easily 90 years old at this point. So it's not as if the replica itself is young. I think Stephens's rocket is the original is stored in the Science Museum, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've seen it in real life. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, then we have this GNER. I think it's, or is it GNR? No, it's GNR. Express locomotive from the 1870s. For you, those Thomas and Friends fans out there, this locomotive is the basis for Emily. So there you go. What this photograph really doesn't convey is the scale of the driving wheel. It's at least 10 feet tall. It's absolutely ridiculously big. Yeah. So basically, GNR decided to, instead of having a bunch of small driving wheels, we'll just have one huge driving wheel. Absolutely insane. And then we have like an old narrow gauge passenger carriage that's in dire need of restoration. We have this locomotive number 127, a milk truck, well, tank van, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Then this little locomotive is used for shunting at crew. It is called Ant, and it's like there's just barely enough room on the footplate for one person to stand on. It's actually so cute. It's probably the smallest steam engine I've ever come across. Or is it called Pet? Yeah, I think it's called Pet. Yeah, my bad. Then we have a Southern Railway electric driving car, which, yeah, like from the, this is from like the 1920s or 30s. So yeah, basically the Southern Railway no, this has to be from the 1910s because it was it was pre-British Rail. So yeah, this is from like the 1910s, early 1920s. So basically, like, the Southern Railway saw the innovations in electric power, and we're like, we'll just third rail electrify our entire network across the south of England, and most of that is still in place today, like Southeastern, Southern, and the Gatwick Express and other trains and other railway companies like that still use those third rail lines to this day, and Thameslink too. So yeah, pretty cool to see one of the trains that started it. And we have a little narrow gauge mounted locomotive. Oh yes, here we go. The LMS locomotive Duchess of Hamilton. Very stylish. That red and gold livery is very cool. Yeah, here's a picture of the nameplate. As you can tell, my phone's struggling in the low light quite a bit. And then there's the cab. A little tank engine named Bauxite, because bauxite's what you get aluminium out of. And so yeah, this thing was used at a bauxite quarry, and it's pretty cool. And then of course the LNER A4 Pacific class, number 4468 Mallard, the fastest steam engine ever built, and probably the prized part of the collection by far. Absolutely beautiful locomotive, and then here's the cab, pretty cool. And then on the back, coupled to Mallard, is this little dynamo car, which is used for what was it? It was used for speed recording, so it recorded Mallard's record, and it also recorded Flying Scotsman's 100-mile-an-hour run back in the 20s. So pretty cool. So yeah, here's the interior, full of equipment for recording these kind of things. But yeah, of course it's the 30s, so it's not very sophisticated. And yeah, then we have a Class 20 in British Rail green with red bumpers. That was pretty cool. And here's the other end with a cameo by my brother once again. Then we have a Class 47/7 named Prince William. Pretty cool. Also, fitted with a high-intensity headlamp. Do like a Class 47. Then a GWR rail car, which GWR rail car. I just blanked. Which was used for high-speed express passenger services between London and Cardiff and Birmingham and places like that. So yeah, pretty very very much executive transport. It's all first class seating in here. I think it was built during the 30s, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have a FGA container wagon with something on the back. I'm not exactly sure what this is. Maybe it's, I don't know. Please let me know down in the comments if you know what exactly this is, because yeah, I wasn't expecting to find a container wagon in a museum. Then we have a Class 26 off of the Woodhead line in British Rail lined black, which is a really neat livery. I do like it. Yeah, you can tell this is one of the early electrics. Very, very boxy. Pity the Woodhead line isn't around anymore. It was basically the entirety of it was demolished, apart from a small section heading out to from Manchester to Hadfield and Glossop, which you can find in Train Sim World. Manchester to Hadfield and Glossop is a Train Sim World route, if you want to go try that. And then we have a HST Class 43 with the MTU engines. This one was operated by GWR and is in the classic Intercity 125 livery and is named Sir Kenneth Grange. And also, going back to Train Sim World, if this train is already, the MTU HST in GWR green is already in the game, but there is a special livery pack being made by Grump Dog Games, and Sir Kenneth Grange is confirmed to be one of the liveries coming. So one of the things I hope is done is a 3D nameplate. But I think there would be an almighty uproar if the 3D nameplate wasn't included. Anyway, pretty cool to see that in real life. Do you like me in HST in the old Intercity livery? We have whatever this thing is. I really don't know. It's some sort of Southern Railway locomotive. That's all I can tell you. Then, yes, the true gem of the collection, apart from Ballard, of course, is the Zero Series bullet train, all the way from Japan. So these things were the first rolling stock used on the original bullet train line, the Tokyo to Osaka line, which opened in 1964. Pretty cool to see one of these at a British museum. I don't know how it ended up there. If you know how of all things a bullet train power car ended up here, please let me know down in the comments. Yeah, pretty cool to see one of these for the second time in real life, because the first time because I actually have one of these preserved at the Kyoto Railway Museum. So yeah, pretty cool to see one of these. Then yeah, we have two pictures. Here's the interior with my brother Joel absolutely grinning his face off, and then if you crane your neck, you can see a bit of the cab, which is pretty cool. Yeah, you can actually like go inside it and walk up and down. It's actually pretty cool. Then this thing is the biggest locomotive in the collection. It's actually a British KF7 class locomotive that was actually built for export to China, which is why it has the American style cowcatcher and the single central front headlight. But it's actually a custom job, because the Chinese wanted something that was light because of weak bridges on the route that it was intended for, but also could haul quite a bit of freight. So, and this was the result, and it remained in service until 1977. So, and was given by the Chinese back to the British for preservation in 1980s, and it has been here ever since. Then we have a Metropolitan Railway underground motor car. But yeah, from like the early 1910s, pretty cool. Then we have an engine out of a Class 25 diesel locomotive with a cutaway, so you can see the interior gubbins. Then this thing is a South African 3-foot 6-inch gauge locomotive that was built for hauling freight. Yeah. I think it's the only 3-foot 6-inch gauge train in the entire collection, which is pretty cool. Then a Class 373 Eurostar, which a lot of them still remain in service to this day, but are gradually being replaced by the 374. So yeah, pretty cool to see these. Then we have a little a miniature electric diesel locomotive. Electric locomotive. My bad, because like for hauling waste out of the Channel Tunnel while it was being built, and it's been preserved as it was during its working days. So it's like really weathered and pitted, and looks as though it's seen a good few years of use. Then we have a little Box Hill tank. I think it's a saddle tank. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And we have whatever this one is. I don't know which one this is. Can't remember. So they do tend to blend together. Then we have Evening Star, which was the last steam engine ever built by British Railways back in 1960. And it only was in service for 5 years before being taken off service and preserved. So this thing only ever worked for 5 years because it was almost instantly replaced by diesels. And then in a separate little shed off to the side, there is this Class 55 Deltic. So this is where the Deltic is. That's where Flying Scotsman is normally stored if she's in residence. Sadly, Flying Scotsman was not there. But yeah. We also did the Flying Scotsman VR experience, which was quite cool. And what was it? We also did one other thing. Oh yeah, we had lunch. So, yeah. And then we headed out, and since we had a bit of time before our train left, we did a bit of a wander around York, central York. So we went all the way to the York Minster and back. This is the only picture I got. So, yeah. And then when we got back to York, there was this random Class 57 rail tour waiting. And as you can see, even the police had to get a look. I did see quite a few 57s on these 2 trips. So this is just the first one. This is the first time I ever saw a Class 57 in real life. So, yeah. It also had one Mark II and then a bunch of Mark Is on the back. So, pretty cool that could be there. What's the next picture? Oh, I can't show that yet because, yeah, so basically, due to an emergency track inspection, our train out of York was delayed quite a while. We eventually got on one. It was quite crowded because our previous one had been cancelled, but we got on an LNER Class 800 and headed back to King's Cross and then headed back to my grandparents' house where my brother Joel and I slept the night, dropped off our grandpa, and then headed out to Blackpool the next day. So basically we came in 9 p.m. on the 23rd for the York trip and then left at 6 the next morning to go to Blackpool. So it was like really... So yeah, we barely spent any time turning around. And then, yeah, the next day we headed off to Blackpool. So on the way there with Elizabeth Line, and then to Euston. So then we hopped on a Pendolino, and here's where I have another complaint to make. This is my first time seeing and riding on a Pendolino in real life. We had booked a window seat, or at least that's how it was advertised. The window seats, some of the window seats on a Pendolino, so like some of the seats are behind the wall and you can't see out from that seat. It's just a blank wall. It's ridiculous. So they advertise window seats that then don't have any windows. And it's mind-boggling. Anyway, eventually we shot up to Preston after 2 hours. So yeah, I arrived slightly seasick due to the tilting and the lack of visibility, but we eventually did get there. So yeah, here's the interior of Preston Station, looking pretty. It's actually quite a nice station, quite airy. And then here's the other side. So at platform 1, we had to wait for quite a bit for the service to Blackpool South, and yeah, so I did catch quite a few trains. There was like Northern 397s and 802s, and then the occasional 185, and then there were like Northern 323s, 156s, 158s, and we also caught this Class 323. That was my first time seeing a Class 323 in real life. So I had no idea any of those were still in service, honestly. So yeah. The goods platform on the other side is actually still in service. Like, there's people working in these offices, so that's pretty cool to see that it hasn't been abandoned yet. So yeah, we eventually got the service to Blackpool South and met up with a couple of friends of ours. This is the only picture I got from Blackpool. So on that first day, we basically like explored the entire promenade and seafront, went up on the Ferris wheel. Where, yeah, Blackpool's a really cool place, but I honestly probably wouldn't want to go back there. It's like a place where you go once and then you've seen everything, pretty much. So yeah, walked down the promenade, yeah, and then spent the night. Did some golf the next day. What else did I? Went out on a boat on the Fairhaven Lake. And then, yeah, caught the Class 156 along the Blackpool South branch, and then headed back on a Pendolino. But there were a couple of notable catches. One thing that I did forget to mention is just before we left Preston, we saw the special Pendolino named Opportunity. That's like the climate change awareness livery, which is pretty cool. Then then when we got back, what was it? I'm trying to remember what I was trying to say. Yes. So at Paddington, we got in time to catch the Friday night band. There's like a home band that plays music from 7:30 to 9 p.m. At Paddington every Friday. So if you're ever in that area at that time of day, a time of week, I should say, go and listen to them. They're actually pretty good, but the Paddington acoustics, like the high vaulted roofs echoing sound everywhere, really did not help. Then, as we were taking the GWR train back to Maidenhead, we spotted, we were actually racing the Network Rail HXT, the Flying Banana, the inspection one. So that was pretty cool. And we also saw the GWR Class 230 battery prototype parked up in a depot. I can't remember where it was. I'd hazard a guess at somewhere near Ealing. Anyway, so yeah, that was my trip. It was absolutely exhausting since I basically spent 4 days going flat out. Anyway, so yeah, that'll be all for this video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, and thank you so much for watching.